Hi, welcome to the quiz. You can answer along on quizalto.com, all for free. The exact URL of this quiz will be in the notes down below. Let's get started. Good luck. Can you use AWS CodeArtifact to store multiple package versions? No, versioning is not supported. Yes, but only the last 3 versions. Yes, it supports versioning. No, only the latest version is stored. AWS CodeArtifact supports storing multiple versions of a package, allowing you to maintain and use different versions as needed. Which AWS CodeArtifact feature helps in preventing unintended package deletions? Snapshots. Multi-AZ replication. Elastic load balancing. Package version policies. Package version policies in AWS CodeArtifact help prevent unintended deletions by setting rules on package versions. How does AWS CodeArtifact ensure the security of your packages? By performing automatic backups. By integrating with AWS Shield for DDoS protection. By using WAF to block attacks. By encrypting data at rest using AWS Key Management Service. AWS CodeArtifact ensures the security of packages by encrypting data at rest using AWS Key Management Service. What is one of the key benefits of using AWS CodeArtifact? Built-in data analytics. Centralized storage for all your software packages. Automatic code refactoring. Integrated social media sharing. AWS CodeArtifact provides a centralized storage location for all your software packages, making it easier to manage dependencies and share packages across teams. What type of access control does AWS CodeArtifact support for repositories? Security groups. Access keys. Bucket policies. IAM-based policies. AWS CodeArtifact supports IAM-based policies for controlling access to repositories, allowing fine-grained permission management. What AWS CodeArtifact feature allows you to control who can publish and download packages? Resource tagging. Repository policies. Multi-factor authentication. VPC endpoint policies. AWS CodeArtifact allows you to control who can publish and download packages using repository policies, which are IAM policies that specify access permissions. What does the AWS CodeArtifact login command do? Lists all packages in a repository. Configures the AWS CLI to use a repository. Creates a new CodeArtifact repository. Deletes an existing repository. The AWS CodeArtifact login command configures the AWS CLI to use a specified CodeArtifact repository for package management. How can you automate the creation and management of AWS CodeArtifact resources? Using AWS QuickSight. Using Amazon Macie. Using AWS Workspaces. Using AWS CloudFormation. You can automate the creation and management of AWS CodeArtifact resources using AWS CloudFormation templates. Which programming languages and package managers are supported by AWS CodeArtifact? Perl, Haskell, Dart, Erlang. Ruby, PHP, Go, C++, Swift, Rust, Kotlin, Lua, JavaScript, Python, Java, .NET. AWS CodeArtifact supports popular programming languages and package managers including JavaScript, Python, Java, and .NET. What is the retention period for packages in AWS CodeArtifact by default? Indefinite, until manually deleted. 90 days. 30 days. 180 days. By default, packages stored in AWS CodeArtifact are retained indefinitely until they are manually deleted. What kind of replication does AWS CodeArtifact provide? Replication to third-party clouds. Replication to on-premises servers. Cross-region replication for high availability. Replication to local file systems. AWS CodeArtifact provides cross-region replication to ensure high availability and redundancy of your packages. What is a domain in AWS CodeArtifact? A grouping of multiple repositories. A type of database. A DNS record. An IAM entity. In AWS CodeArtifact, a domain is a grouping of multiple repositories that share a common namespace. What does AWS CodeArtifact use to ensure that the packages are tamper-proof? Firewalls. IP whitelisting. Digital signatures. Load balancers. AWS CodeArtifact uses digital signatures to ensure that packages are tamper-proof and have not been altered since they were published. What is AWS CodeArtifact primarily used for? Hosting static websites. Managing user identities. Storing and managing software packages. Monitoring application performance. AWS CodeArtifact is a fully managed artifact repository service that makes it easy for organizations to store, publish, and share software packages used in their software development process. How can you publish a package to an AWS CodeArtifact repository? By uploading it to an S3 bucket. By emailing it to an AWS support team. By using AWS CloudFormation templates. By using the AWS CLI or a package manager's native commands. You can publish a package to an AWS CodeArtifact repository using the AWS CLI or the native commands of the package manager you are using, such as npm or pip. What is the purpose of a repository endpoint in AWS CodeArtifact? To provide a URL for accessing the repository. To monitor repository health. To manage IAM roles. To generate cost reports. A repository endpoint in AWS CodeArtifact provides a URL through which clients can access the repository to upload or download packages. Which command is used to list all repositories in an AWS CodeArtifact domain? AWS CodeArtifact describe repositories. AWS CodeArtifact list repositories in domain. AWS CodeArtifact show repositories. AWS CodeArtifact get repositories. The command, AWS CodeArtifact list repositories in domain, is used to list all repositories within a specified AWS CodeArtifact domain. How does AWS CodeArtifact handle package metadata? It stores metadata along with the package. It stores metadata in a database. It requires metadata to be stored separately. It does not support metadata. AWS CodeArtifact stores package metadata along with the package, ensuring that all relevant information is kept together. Can AWS CodeArtifact be used to store private packages? Yes, it supports both public and private packages. Yes, but only for specific package managers. No, it only supports open source packages. No, it only supports public packages. AWS CodeArtifact can be used to store private packages, providing secure access and storage for proprietary software. Which AWS service is recommended for monitoring AWS CodeArtifact usage and activity? Amazon CloudWatch, AWS IAM, Amazon RDS, Amazon S3. Amazon CloudWatch can be used to monitor AWS CodeArtifact usage and activity by setting up alarms and logging metrics. How are dependencies managed in AWS CodeArtifact? By using S3 bucket policies. Through transitive dependency resolution. By manually listing all dependencies. By creating IAM roles. AWS CodeArtifact manages dependencies through transitive dependency resolution, automatically resolving all dependencies required by a package. How can you monitor the health and performance of your AWS CodeArtifact repositories? Using AWS Fargate. Using AWS Lambda. Using Amazon CloudWatch metrics and logs. Using AWS step functions. You can monitor the health and performance of your AWS CodeArtifact repositories using Amazon CloudWatch metrics and logs. Which AWS service can be integrated with AWS CodeArtifact for CI/CD pipelines? AWS CloudTrail, AWS CodePipeline, Amazon Athena, AWS CloudFormation. AWS CodePipeline can be integrated with AWS CodeArtifact to automate the release process of software packages in CI/CD pipelines. What is the default storage class for packages in AWS CodeArtifact? Standard storage. Glacier. Infrequent access. One zone infrequent access. AWS CodeArtifact uses standard storage to store and manage software packages. How do you revoke access to a package in AWS CodeArtifact? By updating the repository policy. By stopping the instance. By changing the VPC settings. By deleting the package. You can revoke access to a package in AWS CodeArtifact by updating the repository policy to remove permissions for specific users or roles. And that's a wrap. Thanks to everyone who participated. Remember, you can answer along on quizalto.com, where you can keep track of your progress and find much more quizzes. We hope you had a fun and challenging time. Until next time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more. Hit the bell icon to be notified as soon as we upload. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts or suggestions, and, If you think this video is worth sharing with someone who could benefit from it, please forward a link to them. See you next time. Thanks for watching.